And welcome back to our second part of our interview tonight here from Chili Water out of Prisonwood. It's joined by my colleague, Kai, Rob Thompson, Gary Long, and Brad Long. And we just have one episode ready to accomplish about some things, bigger aspects, IU basketball, cinema community, how things have changed in this area, comparing the players of the past to NIL today. Lots of pretty awesome topics. And now we're going to zone in a couple of team areas that I think are pretty incredible as both these gentlemen had an opportunity to do it out their years. And Rob, to me, that is not just Hoosiers, but the stories that I think these guys could tell about Jostens and their experience with Jostens. And I think that's where I want to start with first, Rob. Your thoughts to kind of transition into part two of this episode.
Yeah, I mean, definitely a name that is well known around here, right? Been all around a long time. So, when Brad and Gary on, we knew we were going to have a lot to talk about, and so super excited to break this all down. And Jostens, and obviously with Hoosiers is a big thing around here. So pretty excited to get this thing rolling.
So Jostens, gentlemen, how did you first get involved? Gary with that, and then Brad, how did you transition into that as well?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. And the way it happened was, first of all, back in those days, there were only 3 channels. Believe me, if you didn't like basketball, you didn't have anything else to watch, so everybody knew who you were. And I didn't plan to go on with basketball. I got my MBA, helping coach, and was real happy at Eli Lilly. I'd been there 3 years, but my cousin, Jerry Bass, who just wasn't involved in, we were real close, and he was a year behind me at IU. And he was in the yearbook division, and they'd give you $100 if you gave him a name, and then they ended up hiring that person. So he gave me my name, and I kept saying no. I said I couldn't sell anything. I'm just not a salesman type, but they took me out to eat 3 different times. And I said, well, maybe they know something I don't. So I go, so I wrote a real long Dear John letter to Lilly. And I'd been getting good reviews. Every 6 months they give you reviews. So everybody thought I was crazy for taking a chance on leaving Lilly. But it wasn't that big of a chance because I knew I could probably get back in. Then I could say I've got a year's sales experience. In fact, the president came and said, why didn't you tell me you wanted to sell? I could have done that. And I said, well, I don't think I can. But I said, if you'll take me back, I'll probably be back in a year. And I'll have a sales experience. So anyway, what I found out was that a salesman is either the thing you think of as backslapping, joke-telling type guy, which I wasn't, or just almost the opposite. Believe you've got the best and make sure it's the best, and then be sincere about it. And then the other big thing is be able to get knocked out and get back up. And somebody says no, most people quit right then. So you got to be able to do that. But that's how I ended up with Jostens. And then Herb Jones found out I was looking at them too. But after I interviewed both companies, I decided I can't sell for number 2. I'm not really a salesman. I got to be with the best one. And so that's why I went with Jostens, and I figured I'd be there a little while and found out I couldn't do it and then go back to Lilly. But 40-some years later, I was, I kind of semi-retired when Brad came in, and kept doing it for a while with him then. And Mike and then Scott did it for a while in Florida. So that's how it all got started. And they were all real good at it. You got to be a certain type. You got to be honest. You got to at least believe in your product, and not when somebody says no, you can't quit. You got to get back up. That's what you learn in sports. Right. So with the sports background, made us all 3 pretty good salesmen. And you do have to be one or the other type, and we were the opposite of the back slapping joke telling type. So
Yeah, I'm in sales. What type do you think I am?
I'd say you're more like us. No, I think you're more like us. when you get because I can talk too when we're talking sports,
You get down to
but I can tell you would be sincere. So let's
So what would I be type like?
man, you'd be the accountant. You wouldn't even be in sales.
you might be better than you think.
Yeah, you might.
Yeah.
You'd probably be all business. You'd be all business. There'd be all business.
Brad, what was your initiation process, and how did you obviously dad had done it. Is that kind of something you kind of always had in life coming out of college? And that'd be a pretty cool thing to do. Or was there something else and you kind of also felt wishing like that?
Yeah, looking back, I mean, we grew up as Jostens sons, me, my brothers, and we saw everything that you did, and the thing I remember about it was that you were kind of your own boss. You set your own hours, and that appealed to me. But honestly, right out of college, I mean, I thought about being a lawyer and thought about being a stockbroker. You never pushed us. But after I got a taste of, we went to a sales school because I thought I'd see what this is about. And I just fell in love with it. You get out of it what you put into it. It's all about relationships. I've said for years, you can have the best product. And I feel like we do at Jostens. We are the oldest and largest company in the industry. Just because you're the biggest doesn't mean you're the best, but you don't get to be the best don't get to be the biggest without being the very best at what you do. And so I realized I had a good product behind me. I like that part of it, but it's very competitive. It's a lot like sports. I think our sports background helped us there. You're right, Dad, when you say you have to learn to be able to handle it. Just like in sports, you got to learn to handle rejection. Life isn't fair. Teamwork. Get out of what you put into it. So I think that really helped background-wise. I remember you, I think at an early age, said you might get 49 no's. But when you get that 50th yes, that keeps you coming back.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a lot of truth in that. So I love sales. For me, it's about the relationships. I can have a great product, and I do, but you've got to facilitate. You've got to provide good service. That's what I get by now. And good service is a big part of any success that we've had. But I think about the relationships, the secretaries, the principals, the guidance directors, the janitors. Right. We make good friends with custodians. I know them all by name. I'm going to be at Center Grove tomorrow. I'll see Kyle and Brenda and all of them tomorrow. And they'll help me set things up because they are the eyes and ears of the school. But ththose relationships. So I'm letting was like a little bit, but that's a big part of sales to me is those relationships. It's a daytime sales job too. Yeah. There was people when they sell life insurance at night, and I said, no, I didn't want to miss any of my kids' games. I thought that was important. Yeah, but I thought, well, this will be daytime. I'd probably be back a little late in the year, but I'm going to try it. And the rest is history. Dad had a really great career at Jostens. He got numerous awards, and there's all types of sales techniques. But to me, sincerity is a big part. Dependability, trustworthiness. And again, Jostens probably wouldn't like me sound nice, but they're not buying for Jostens. They're buying for Gary Long and Brad Long. Yeah. And I've got a great product, but they're buying from you.
So just real quick, just for my own curiosity, how is Indiana, or is it state reps? Is it regional reps? How is that structured?
Yeah, great question. Jostens, and we're a very competitive business. Herb Jones is our competitor. I have a health and respect for them. Dad brought me up. We don't not competitors. It's a very healthy relationship. I do feel like we have some advantages. That's why I'm on this side. But those are the two that really go at it. My territory is 82 schools. I'm home every night. I go west to Terre Haute, north to North Central High School. I don't go out of Marion County, south to Mitchell, and east to Eastern Utah. So it's kind of west central and east. Yep. And it keeps me hot out. And I set my own orders. 7 territories, and it's now 5. It's now 5 territories. There's been over the years. There's
regional territories.
Yes. All no one else to your company.
Yeah.
And that's a good point because they are you say 82 schools, that's a lot of schools, but there's some territories bigger than that. That's considered kind of a medium small territory, and I like it because they get personal service. I got to be somewhere tomorrow. I don't have people do my job. I have an associate, my sales manager, and Reynolds to put in plug land does a great job for me, but it's really me. She and I run the territory.
Yeah.
And you get out of it what you've been into. You got to be on time. I didn't feel very well the other day. I had a little bit of a cold. I did feel well. There's no subs on the sub line. On the side, got a week last week. You got to be there. You got to be there. That has a great story about when I think my middle brother was being born. Was it Scott. Was it Scott? We'll pick up the school name. I called Trip, went to Mike's middle school on the way to the hospital. Went to Mike's business school, but I called the principal. I said, my wife's in labor. Is there any way we said no? Yeah, I can't change. So I went, and she was in labor all that day. And in fact, she insisted we go to Mike's. Yeah. But think about that. The principal had, and I have respect for that principal. We laugh about all these years later. But it's, there's no, you are your own boss. And there's good things and bad things about that, but mostly good things. I would trade it flat.
Strictly high schools, or you do colleges in the area?
Great question, Chris. We are a scholastic division, which is only high schools. It's the biggest division. You've got a college division. Not as many colleges as there are high schools, so it's actually a smaller egg. There's a yearbook division, which hardly does yearbook. We are in Scholastic Division, which is high schools, and the products we sell are classrooms, graduation announcements and accessories, caps and gowns, diplomas, and awards, trophies, and that type of thing. Those 5 core products, and that keeps us hopping, keeps us busy. So
what's for your region? What is the estimated increase of
good
today compared to the number of schools? 20.
Yeah, that's a great. You want to take that? I thought you were going to ask about the volumes. We were just talking about. Well, the difference in when they buy. So speak to that. That at one time. Yeah. Well, the difference in the prices. Yeah. I remember. Yeah. Listen to this. One time. They call about, when you send out your letters when your kids are getting ready to order the blast radios and everything. And the jumbo ring was $30. What that was $30. We bought the gold from the governor for $35 an ounce. So they're mostly were gold rings. You had gold and silver. So when gold went on the market and the prices started going up, somebody called our house and told my wife, my son or daughter, and the work brought this back home, says they claim, it's going to cost $50. And my wife says, $50? You got to be kidding. I had to explain to her the price of gold went up, and that's why. So anyway, that was a story that I always tell about how she was really involved in our business. That had to be circa 1970, because a gold class ring right now does not go for $50. Yeah, I said, oh yeah, they're like, what's the 30 to 300? Yeah, more than that. Yeah, they don't buy in class rings like they used to do, and the salad that you guys used to call them. There's a lot of things tugging at consumer dollars. I'm not sure a class ring is that high on the list like it used to be. There are still students that buy class rings, and the prices, of course, have gone up as the price of metal, precious metals gone up. But what they still buy, guys, is the senior products. That if it weren't for that core business, I probably would have another job. They still
invitation.
Yeah, there's about 30 products. We've become a clothing business. They can buy hoodies, sweatshirts, duffels, senior keys, announcements, name cards. There's a lot of items.
We got to remember this for next year.
Yeah. That's where I really lucked out, because Herff Jones was being in Indiana, had most of the business. I couldn't get them to pronounce Jostens right, but it was the biggest company in that business. Both of them. But yeah, and really tribute to you, Dad. And so I went after the announcement because Herff Jones had I said, I don't have to be the bride, but I'd like to try out for one of the bridesmaids. Yeah. Try for the seniors. And then gradually, I led the nation a couple of years because I'd gone after that. Yeah. And the rings, we're going down, the announcement's up. And so he and some of those early Jostens guys carved a big dent into the Herb Jones regime. And I have a healthy respect for Herb, but this is their headquarters. So it stands to reason they would do well at home state. Nationwide, Jostens is the company by far. But now it's pretty. We have probably we have about a 60% market share, and they're a good company. I don't knock them, but it's an interesting business. Get out of it what you put into it, and but back on the senior stuff, they still buy that pretty well, and so school spirit, and the products sell themselves. I mean, we tell the kids in meetings, this is representative of the memories you're going to make in school. I talk about the class ring, and I say of all the things that you're going to walk out of this building with, probably your tassel off your cap again, probably your diploma, make your yearbook. The fourth thing probably is your class ring. The class ring that is the most to tell your story because of all the things that you can put on it. First right. So, bit of a sales pitch, but I believe in that. I mean, I think the products sell themselves. And so it's an interesting. I remember when this was trying to get me to take the job. I said, well, I couldn't sell anything, and I didn't even buy a class ring. I was because I was too tight, so I didn't smoke. I said, well, I would have paid money to do that. So that could be a good thing. But I said my fingers are always jammed. That was my excuse. Everybody else got one. I said, that microphone, so I didn't even buy one. But they showed me what teenagers spent their money on. That year was $13 billion, which is nothing now. I'm sure what. But anyway, I looked at all those products, and 95% are worse than a classroom, because at least it had some school spirit and all the things, the senior products and things that I was going to be selling. I thought, well, kids are going to buy it. They're going to buy it. They might as well buy it from me, and that's why I thought, well, I'll try this. Yeah, the other thing I would say too is this kind of sound like a sales pitch. I suppose it is. Yeah. But the graduation announcement is still, I believe, and I say this in the senior meeting. You said it, Senator Rowe. We'll be there tomorrow to pass them out. Is a very good investment. Like that, you spend, it's like $1.80 for an announcement. It's got a special crest on it. Gives a date, time, and place. You send out that invitation to a neighbor, to a family member. You might get a pretty nice gift back for the commencement. It's a pretty good rate of return. I say there's 3 times in your life you do pretty well. Your birthday, Christmas, the third one is graduation. If you do it, if you send out that commencement. I say, am I telling you everybody's going to send you a gift of $50? No, but a lot of people will. Family members. It's an unbelievable rate of return. What you spend in a graduation package versus the gifts that you did back. And the rings have been a good time. Yeah, because the gold that's in them, a 10-karat gold ring is 40% gold, $2,000 an ounce.
Yeah, if you wait long enough, you can make 4 times what you paid for it.
Yeah.
What's the most rewarding thing for you tonight, being part of the community of Jostens? Like you're in the Centerville area, you're in Whiteland areas, you're in the community you live in. What's a moment when you think back to, okay, this makes it worth it?
That's a great question. I think for me, it's like the first graduate of a family. I'll pick on Tech High School. I worked at Arsenal Tech. And a lot of times I can think of families at delivery that they're so excited to get their cap and gown, and they will make the comment, hey, he or she is the first one to graduate from the family. And you can just feel the pride, can see it. And you know you've been a small part of providing them with a memory that's going to last them forever. So it's those moments, if someone gets a class ring that might know it's their first piece of jewelry. We tell them this, down the road, somebody's going to get married, wedding ring is important, but a class ring is sort of a rite of passage, tells your story, and when they get their ring for the first time and try it. So for me, it's the kids, it's the memories that we provide for kids. And the products that we provide, they provide lasting products. That's a benchmark event, commencement. Benchmark event, getting your class ring. So I think that's what it is for me. It's still good out of thinking even see a student be touched by a product that my company happens to send. Yeah, it makes you feel good.
Any moment that seems rewarding you, just like what Brad just said, or
the one that stands out, that story I just told. So, but it's the same with me. I mean, it does some good things, and most things they buy are almost bad things. So I feel it does a lot more good than harm. So it's been a great business, and Jostens been a great company. Turned out to be, because of the independence you had, that was a big not missing ball games because it's a daytime job. I would have never taken something where I had to do it when they were playing. And think about it, guys. I mean, if we're getting ready, Center Grove, I think, has their commencement. I want to say it's June 1st. I may have that wrong. But that day will be a very big day, not only for the graduates, but for its families. It's just one of those benchmark events. The open houses, that's one of the things we say, all these open house cards, and about everybody still has one. Indiana's, some parts of the country haven't been like Midwest, so we're like a Midwest. Still kind of a tradition.
More consistent.
More esprit de corps than there is events. It's not anywhere like it used to be. But it's still best in the best.
Personal question, fresh off what? How do you stay healthy? Been doing it for a long time.
That's a really good question.
How do you? Because it can be hard. It can be taxing, right?
Yeah.
And when you're getting 49 no's and you get, I mean, I live. Yeah, you live with like you get 49 no's, you get down. It's like that. That might be way down the road.
That's right. And there's been schools that I have taken over that it took me 32 years to get. I'm a guy that I don't have what's called drive-bys. Drive-bys are, and I know some reps that do this. I just don't subscribe to this. They just drive by that school because they know they feel like they don't have any cheats and warts and everything. I never have done that in my life. I stop in every school on a regular basis. And you have to be persistent. And sometimes with administrative change, you may have a principal that moves to. I just never understood the concept of dry guys. So persistence. You have to be determined. To answer your question on staying hungry, I would say keeps me up around the kids a lot. I go into the high schools. It's sort of, you're forced to be young, and you're at a lunch period and you see the music they're playing or what they're doing. You're forced into their environment. So to some degree, it keeps me in touch with the younger group. I still have fun doing it. I tell you, the other thing helps keep me hungry. Every day is different. Every school is different, so there's a lot of variety, and that brings, I think, fun too. It keeps it fresh. Nothing's ever stale. I have secretaries now that say to me, "Are you thinking about retirement?" That's code for you getting on. But at 62, if you had asked me 10 years ago when I thought I would retire, I would have said, I don't know, maybe 60. I'm 62 and I'm still enjoying it. So I don't know. I'm not tired of doing this. I still enjoy it. Everything else. Yeah, I semi-retired when Brad got interested in it, and I had one other guy that was working with me. When you get some, birds, you do it all yourself because we didn't have that much business. But about the time Brad was coming out of college, I was needing some help, and he had seen our lifestyle, and so I think they're a pretty good thing to do, and I needed him, and it just worked out great.
So how was that? How was that father-son conversation there? You got, no disrespect, but a college kid coming out wants to be right.
Well,
that conversation you got.
it wasn't any problem at all. I mean, it just happened that way.
Yeah.
I needed somebody, and he was looking for a job.
Yeah.
There was no conflict at all. I mean, it's okay. And we probably should add that we had sales meetings yearly. And Jostens was part of our fabric is we have a yearly sales meeting. It used to be in summer, right, in July, when school was out. And we have such good memories. We would take them all with us. And all of us were golfers, colleagues, the Popes, and all of us. We would get in that photo with our golf club, solve the world's problems, stop and play golf on our way to sales. And there's that. You got to spend time with, that $100. I was recruiting other salesmen. They were friends of mine, Garrett Polk, down Greenfield, and turned my cousin, I Ranger team. So a lot of those younger guys my age now, we're now the old guard. We're getting ready to retire.
So on the road, this question is not important. I don't know. Do you make that high golf?
I'll tell you, he was this another fatherly thing I think that I've learned from him. I never really just handed us anything on a platter. We either had to pay half or, and I always thought that was good because you had a stake in it. I had a roommate in college, Chuck Millis, and God bless him. He, he he was there on a partial scholarship, and I found out because in our talks, his parents paid the rest of the way. Well, it was just like the holiday inn fellow. He was a good football player, but he flunked out after like 3 months. He wasn't going to class. And the point of that story is because I had scholarship my own, paid for part of my way. You had a stake in it.
Yeah.
So he always kind of did that with us. To your point, never really just spoiled us. And, we had to have a help with the money, and that made you respect it more. And think I didn't want to be the guy that said, how did my kid, how did that kid turn out so different than I did? Because they said, I don't want them to have to go through what I did. So they give him everything.
Yeah.
But I said, I'm not going to be that guy. They're going to earn their way because I learned a lot of it with working on the phone.
Yeah.
I figured that's how I built character, so I want to make sure they did it that way. And you brought this up, so I have to say this. You said character. One of the things I remember my dad saying a lot, when things didn't go our way, I lost a game I thought I should have won, or didn't get a grade I thought I should have. He would always say that builds character. And I always get sick of it. And all these years later, I understand it. And I don't know if you remember this, Dad, but you told me one time, if you ever really get to feeling sorry for yourself, go to an emergency room, sit there for 30 minutes. And I thought that was a weird thing. And somewhere around my junior year, I took you up. I don't know if you know.
Or you went through the jail too.
Person
I took you to the jail.
Scared straight. Early edition.
I was in that too.
Yeah,
We had
it works.
Oh, that worked. Oh man. Yeah.
And but the emergency room story, I'll finish that real quick.
Yeah.
I went and sat there for 30 minutes, and boy, I realized I didn't have it so bad. That's what that did for me.
Yeah.
That was his point.
Yeah.
You think you're feeling sorry for yourself, go sit in the emergency room. If you find out after 30 minutes,
It could always be worse.
Yeah.
No matter what happens.
Yeah, that was a good exercise.
Chris Wood, Rock Thompson, Jerry Long, Brad Long. They'll get transition over here on the Center Grove Trojan Beat here, Chilly Water, to our last topic of the night. The official topic, shall I say. But one that obviously I'm very excited. I know Brad talked about this obviously more than a few times others, but just some curiosity questions and kind of see where it goes. I was a sixth grader when I kind of walking down, stared away by the science rooms by Mr. Davis is there at the middle school, and going down the hallways. We called it the basement in those days. But I can remember there being announcements about meeting people, people in the stands, like
Right.
as well as the big news was that and sixth grader or eighth grader Nathan Ops was involved in the movie in some capacity. And that's all I knew about at that time until I was down in New Orleans in '87 and I knew, and of course, the Hoosiers was making a huge success. So now, to back us up a little bit, share with us how you first got involved with this project.
Yeah, I tell you, the short story is I graduated college in the spring of '85. So that was May '85. So that summer, there were articles that came out in the Indianapolis Star saying they were looking for players, high school ages, to portray this Hickory High School basketball team. A movie that was going to be shot in Indiana, loosely based on my own story. So several of my friends said, you ought to give that a shot. I said no like 20 times. I said, I'm 23. I'm too old. And so finally, I heard enough about it. So okay, I'll go down. And I went down to IUPUI campus. I'll never forget it. It was a California. It was a big offline. And we heard later that they interviewed over 8,000 young men in Chicago, LA, and Indy. So, just to be chosen was an honor. But anyway, cut to the chase. So I remember getting up to the line and we had to do basketball drills. Now, here's what I would tell you. Not that I was a great basketball player. Like I said, I was a good basketball player. I wasn't great. But a lot of the guys in that line were thespians. They were not basketball players. So I've said for years, most sports movies, they look for basketball players. They look for actors and hope they can play basketball. This movie they look for basketball player, which is what they grab. Took a completely different yes. Oh, there's a winner. There's a winner.
No, I want they're cheering the Hoosiers story.
Yeah, right.
They're cheering on the Hoosiers.
They wouldn't know me from Adam.
It's still alive here.
Still
Johnson
alive.
County, baby. Still alive in Johnson
I thought it was a Pacers game.
I was thinking, who won the purse? Who won the purse?
It's the winner right there. There you go.
So yes, after these actual basketball players,
Yeah, so we're in line, and so I got up there, did some drills. I did okay. I played basketball, and then they had you read some lines. And I had just started with Jostens that summer, and you learn at Jostens you have to get up in front of kids and talk, So I never was really bashful per se. I mean, I was able to speak in front of people if I had to. I didn't have a fear, and so that helped my cause. I think that the lines that I read. They pretended like the camera was on you. I just act like it wasn't there. So between those two things, they kept whittling it down, kept getting callbacks. And so to answer your question, I just kept whittling down to about 40 guys, and then down to 20. And then eventually they called us in and said, you've been chosen for that. So that's how it came about. And it was just a lucky break. I had no acting experience at Center Grove. I never did a play. I was always interested in that. I thought it was cool. I would go to them. I played Jacob Marley and Scrooge in the 5th grade. That was my acting reason. I got to do Jacob Marley. That was it.
so when was that wow moment for you during the process? Like, and that first starstruck, first moment, you realize that you're doing something which is really awesome.
Well, I think the first thing that happened is when we were chosen members of the team, we got to meet Gene, and then we did some acting and improvisation stuff with him. They were real careful. They weren't trying to really be. One of the reasons we were chosen is I felt like we were comfortable on the screen. So they didn't really want to try to overcoach us, if you will. So I remember in those acting exercises, we did little monologues. Each guy had to get up and sing his favorite song. I sang "Take It Easy" by the Eagles. It was fun, So those were things that we did. That was an aha moment, probably being in that room with Gene. I thought, this gift real. But when we actually started film, is the thing I probably remember the most. In a movie, you film things out of sequence. It's like put pieces of puzzle together. The first scenes that we shot with the whole movie were the second ones, which are shown towards the end in Brainspout. That was the first scenes we shot. And I think that's when it hit me. Now, ran our uniforms, rehearsal, action, and then we did reel. Then you realize it was real. I've also said, because the movie was about basketball, I wasn't too much out on the elements. We had media days in college. I'm sure you did. Even at our little college, we had media days. Media come out, you practice, they bring you over, ask questions. That's what it seemed like to me. Now, if the movie would have been about ping pong, billiards, I might have been trumpet. But I had played college and high school basketball. So we weren't too much out of our element. So I would say those are the two. Well, the room, in the room with G, just us doing some monologue stuff, and then we actually started filming in Brownsburg. Yeah, then it was game on after Brownsburg.
So through that process, 2 questions. How long did filming take? Like, what was that duration? And then I don't know anything about Mount Laurel, but I'm assuming there's like a team. And we spent so much time together. It's kind of replicated what you've already experienced maybe up in high school, college level, being with the guys, going out, doing your job, making it, come back next, you do it even better.
That's it. And you bring up a good point. They put us all in a hotel together.
Okay.
We had roommates. Camp Blue was my room when he played Mo. Purposely they did that because they wanted us to develop chemistry, to your point. So we did learn. We scrimmaged with each other. We had some time where we would scrimmage, hit to no point to. We became fast friends very quickly. We'd all played high school basketball except for Morris. Jimmy Chitwood got cut from his high school team. That's a good trivia question for you. Played for Chittard, never played for Chittard, got cut. One of those guys, we all know them, they get a chip on their shoulder because they got cut for whatever reason, and they get mad about it. So they go to the park. They go downtown. They play pickup ball. They get pretty good. Morris is that guy. He probably could have played small class guys, ultimately, but did play high school. Shooter's son, Everett, did not play high school ball. They discovered him in California, played thick up by the beaches. But, could play, have a little game. The rest of us had all played high school basketball. So back to your question, We developed that chemistry by running together, playing together. And then it just sort of, went from there. The script, there were set plays that we would do, but for the most part, they would roll the ball out and say, you guys play. We're going to keep some of this footage. And so in that final game, they're trying to beat us. We're trying to beat them. That was a game. There was a couple set plays, and believe it or not, you can look at that and think, this team would kill this team. It would have been a good game.
Yeah.
We could all play something. It would have been interesting if they would let us play.
Yeah, but they were players too because
They could play.
Yeah.
Yeah, Richard
could have got. Yeah.
Richard Robinson, big center, played at IUPUI. Houston Mills, I guarded him at Boise State. I got to know him. Avery C. I can give you some of the guys. We sort of know each other. Darren, this is what age does too. Darren Newbold, I think is his name. Played at Marion University. Because we all played basketball. Jimmy Rails' son was out of the Cherokee team. That's right.
Yeah, it's not just passed away there.
His dad's teammate.
He was sophomore when I was a senior. And people don't know it, but we had 5 guards, and he didn't. I started every game, but they kept alternating the others 3. And it was the next 2 years when they don't took. Of course, we had Bellamy. He was our first option. But Jimmy's 2 years, junior and senior, he scored 56 points a couple times. Because that long-range shot him.
But his son, Jimmy Jr., was how good.
And then we sat with him at the Hall of Fame.
We just saw him not very long ago. Yeah, his boy walked on to Purdue, actually. It's got a sign at Purdue. But hope that answers your question. Yeah, just
How long? How about the way?
3 months.
3 months.
3 months. We started filming middle of October. You know what? 2 months. We finished around Pilgrim with that. So it was like October 14th to December 7th. I didn't know that until I said that. So, and the reason that happens, they had actual locations, actual gyms. You're not flying to Hollywood or different stuff. It was all in Indiana. So it was all done right there. And it just didn't take very long. It flowed. It was, I can't believe it looking back on it. We were done in 2 months. Phenomenal. That's amazing.
So maybe.
Gary, from your perspective, as this is all unfolding that your son has been doing basketball and whatever he's saying, what was going through your mind about this opportunity, you and your wife?
Well, my wife was one who's real excited. In fact, they've got a lot of things in the museum, pictures she took during the filming of it. She did. We went to quite a few things, and I don't know if you even knew, but I had a bit part. But they got cut. I hemmed it up too much. But the writer was Angelo Pizzo.
Yep.
He was a 7th grader in Bloomington when I was playing, and he said, I didn't remember. He said he used to come over sometimes, rebound for the team, and he didn't know Brad was my son, but then he connected the name, and found out he was my dad. Yeah, found out I was his dad. So he said, "Get your dad to let him be a coach."
Yeah.
And he said I was the only one that ever thanked him.
He was the only one that my dad
always said,
he would rebound balls for the IU team.
Yeah.
And he remembers my dad saying thank you. So it pays to be nice.
And I always said, I remember how I was around players, Shelbyville players. I was afraid to talk to them. I was used to all of them.
Yep.
And I if I ever get to be a player, I'll probably be nice to little kids. And then even though my line was foul to run it. Remember the little kid with the Ollie free throw, Ollie? I was supposed to say foul to run it, but they said just act like a coach. So I see myself run. Yeah, I run toward the play, and I see myself run right out of the picture. and then the assistant, C.W. Mundy, who took 4 days to film that little part. C.W. Mundy, who did a lot of athletic pictures. He was really a funny guy to be around. He threw his clipboard down, so everybody looks at him. They don't look at me. I had a rolled up paper like Johnny. They improve. You do improv with a lot of things. I did after John Wooden. He did some things like that when he slammed the door. That was fun.
It was fun.
But a lot of little things I sure learned about movie making. I never knew before. I mean, most of us he's sitting around and choreographing the next one and telling you what to do. But they weren't about to redo mine because it wasn't that important. In fact, it was better showing the other guys They went although the line, he just says Fallon. They dubbed in him because I had already run out of the picture. We always say missed out on the Oscar nomination because they cut his line. So yeah, but I had to sign a Screen Actors Guild contract, and because that movie was such a big hit, I would always get about a fourth of whatever he would get when they paid royalties. And most of those years, it was the aggravating to the accountant that had to show his income because I think Orion must have taken chapter 13. Then all of a sudden, you might probably I got the $700 check about the 25th year because they must have come out of chapter 13. We need to qualify to hit that had a hit. Yeah. I can't see. That's all that we're doing. We're live on that. So one thing you mentioned, to his point there on you mentioned the cutting line. Yeah. Everything. Every person has a role, really, and they kind of get to decide. And so they took a long anyway. With you being in that, but it was a cool thing that I got to see the movie with my dad. A lot of people, don't think about that, but that was nobody expected that picture to be like it did. I mean, it just, they almost called it second chance. I'm sure glad they left the Hoosiers, but his second chance, shooter's second chance, or just all through the movie, it would have been a good. And it's based on the Milan story, obviously. Angelo and David both went to IU together. They've always been their dream to come back to do a movie about Yale high school basketball. And yes, it's based on an Milan story. People always ask me, what's your take on the movie? And I always give credit to the writer director, which they should get the credit. But it also say they certainly a movie about basketball, but it's about redemption. It's second chances. You see shooter getting a second chance. You see players, coaches, and that's a microcosm of life. Second chances. So that's. I always like to point that out because it's about basketball, but really there's other things in it, about second chances and redemption. And they tried to put some romance in it with Gene and Barbara to get the the romantic side. But all us players kind of laughed about that. We felt like he was too old for it, but we still talk about that.
What's the age difference? This came to I'm showing this to my seventh graders this was spring break. Honestly, that lived in my thought. What was the age difference? Gene Carp.
Yeah, that's a great question. I'd have to Google that. Gene just passed. He's 95, and I want to say Barbara was like 20 years younger. Could have been his daughter. And here's the funny thing about that. We remember watching the dailies. Occasionally we'd go by the film and we would see what was being shot that day. And even as 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old boys, we thought he's robbing great. All these years later, we laugh about that. But again, back to my point, they felt like they wanted to have some romance in it to get every market, to give maybe people, and they wanted romance. This is one. So, but you made me think of something I need to tell you that I thought was pretty cool. Dennis Hopper, he's one of our favorite guys. Gene was great. Shep Willie was great. And I got along fine with Barbara. She got kind of a bad rap, but she was very nice to me. But Dennis Hopper was like one of the bubbles. The scene where he walks out drunk, stumbling on the court, you know how he would have cared for that? They got drunk. No? Everybody, that's a good line. That would have been a wonder. Yeah, that would have been real method acting. But what he did, he went out into the foyer and got a baseball bat and did Dizzy Lizzy. Really? Remember the Dizzy Lizzy? Yeah. A lot of people don't know that story. And so when he stumbles out there, that's real. He's dizzy. It's real. And I always tell that story. I got a kick out of it. He said he learned a lot of method acting stuff from James Dean. He and James Dean were buddies. He was in Rebel Without a Cause and Giant with James Dean. Another Indiana guy.
So when you were in it, did you? I mean, Gene Hackman, Dennis Hopper. Did you know? Who were you standing across from?
I did. I was the oldest player. I was 23. Not that Ollie, the youngest, at 18 didn't know. I think we all knew each other. So we knew about French Connection, Popeye Doyle, Lex Luthor. I mean, you had done this. But I don't Gene never made us feel, and I said this when Gene passed here a couple months ago. There was a lot of tributes. I've had interviews I did with folks, and I kept giving the same answer, but I'm not making it up. It's a true answer. He was just very gracious. Could have come in and been a real prima donna, said, I know what I'm doing, head up away. He came in and said, I want to do some high school basketball practices. Really? I want to learn their verbiage, how they do. He'd never played a high school coach before. So I always was impressed by that. Not a real prima donna. He said, I know what I'm doing. He did. And he said, I want to learn. And so that's always stuck with me about Gene.
You may or may not know this, but what was his, like I trap word, and when I talk Indiana basketball, the people that aren't from Indiana, like it's different.
Absolutely it is.
Did he get a taste of that?
I think he did. Here's one of the lines he gave to John Tesh and Mary Hart from Entertainment Tonight. They were at Butler one night, and we watched the interview, and could never forget something I said. He said, he's the best extras he'd ever worked with. Nettie Nobley. He said, only in Indiana could you get 8,000 people come out and cheer for fake basketball.
Yeah.
And I love that line. But that's true. That's true. I know it's not true. Could have pulled that off in New Mexico.
No.
And we're biased here because, Indiana basketball. But yeah, I mean, there's a history here. Like the college I played in Kansas, they would say, tell me, and this is back before class basketball, they'd say, tell me again, what is the smallest school that, and I'd say, yeah, that's how we do it here. Well, I miss those days. Yeah. I understand both sides of it, and I'm not going to get it, but they go like, I hear it. But Bobby Plumstead, he'll tell you you should go back. I do miss the old dance. Life isn't fair, just like you said before. But I understand when you go to South Putnam and they say, well, we can't get this bad, Davis. I get that. I do understand it. But I still think it's pretty cool the way we did it.
Yeah.
Because every year, if you think about it, there would always be a fourth team, whether it was Argus or, a Hebron or little school that would creep in there. And besides the other three teams, the rest of the state would get behind that one.
Absolutely.
I miss those days. And the old,
They win the section.
yes, the old sectional here. The old sectional. I miss that.
Yeah.
The Johnson County section.
Yeah.
It's just totally different. I see both sides of it, but I'm not gonna lie to you. I miss the old. But it just ages me.
Chris Wood, Rob Thompson, Gary Lane, Brad Walker, we talked about the big picture and whatnot. And Brad, my next question for you for this is, when did you know this was big time?
Boy, that's a great question. I don't think any of us knew at the time it was going to be big. When we went to premiere and we got a good review, even then, we had no idea. I think that when we first realized it, it was picking up national attention. And you certainly think a movie called Hoosiers was going to do well, and people are going to go see it. What they didn't know was that people in Utah to see, people in California, people in Spain, it was global. I had a lady come up to me once and said, I didn't know you spoke Spanish. I said, well, I don't. I said, I don't. I said, I didn't take foreign language in high school. I wish I would have. It was served me well. She said, what you do now, we saw your movie, A Transatlantic Flight, and you spoke to me. Yeah. So, pretty amazing that it did that well. I don't think those guys ever thought that it would do as well as it did. And ESPN, places like that, keep helping us out by ranking it highly. I think it's just an honor to be mentioned with Brian's song, Chariots of Fire. Remember the Titans. A lot of great sports sci-fi. Just to mention is that time.
Gary, from the family perspective, this is all taking place. You had a chance to be at some of the movie. What did the family do? Did you go on site when he was recording? Did it filming, or was it just strictly just a spread, or did you come along, or have that all kind of play out days or the experience with him?
That's a good question. First, his mom was really into that. Her favorite show was Academy More. She loved all that kind of stuff. Said she went to some of the shootings of it. You could go be an extra, but I needed extras all the time. And I didn't too much. I went with her when I could, and we were there for that big scene where you guys may not have known this. They didn't quite fill it. They didn't film the house, but so we had to move around and make it look like this. Yeah. And
she took a lot of pictures. But we didn't really. Of course, Brad was one that when they talked nudes, he was the older one and he kind of the leader. And so we would watch all that, but didn't really go to too much of it. Of course, that's 4 days with my little bit part. I think Lachlan's young for that. Yeah, it was still same suit every day for 4 days, so that probably started getting right about. Yeah. But most of it was just standing around here doing all things. I remember being so sad because our little dog that we love, Bandit, would always go out and get the cake. And he went out to get it that morning, and it was a Catholic bus, didn't know it, and ran right over it. And in fact, the Scott, that time he was still on the B team. He had a game that night. As I was half crying the whole time it was going on, but I wasn't a big enough part of it. That didn't make any difference. But that was the 4 days right after that little dog was killed. So that's what I think of right now. But what he had the right attitude, but you didn't get the picture much anyway because I hammed it up too much. I acted like a coach instead of sitting.
You thought you were an actor.
Yeah, I would have had a close up. Yeah, I would have stayed on the bench. Yeah.
So what joy, like what joy, this experience for you guys? I mean, I'm sure it's been amazing, but what the joy for you, the joy for you?
Well, and Greg gets to spread a Christian message too. We're a Christian family, and he always kind of ties it in. He still asks to speak a lot, and I think that's been a good thing that's happened.
Yeah, I don't think any bones about it. Man of faith, and get to speak to a lot of youth groups, civic organizations, and I let them know, where I stand. And so I think the Lord really blessed me through this experience. It's been an opportunity to give something back, give it the opportunity that I've had, and it was a lucky break. Let's just be honest. I mean, I'm no actor. Jacob Marley Scrooge, 5th grade, acting was but I happened to fit a character. They were like a bull and fell into a good situation. But it's just such an honor to be part of something that I think we were talking about this the other day. I will be in heaven one day, and my great grandkids might turn on Hoosiers and say, that's my great thing. They won't probably know who I was, but that's my trivia question may still be at mine because they play good defense now. But that's a weird thing to think about. No, that it's going to be a lasting thing, and I'm just thrilled that it gives pleasure to people. Here's my wish list. This ages me a little bit here too. I wish that the younger generation that never saw Hoosiers in a movie theater. It's so much better than theater. The smell of popcorn, the crowd interaction. Most of the kids now that have ever seen it, if they've even seen it, was on a DVD. Our crowd have that ever, and that's okay. But we can't hear on ringers that they might, just like they did with The Godfather. They did a 50th year release of theirs. We're hearing stuff that they might do at some point with Hoosiers in the theater, and that would be thrilling. And I want to be sure I reiterate that I give any credit to the success of this movie to the writer and director. I just think they got it right. It was their idea. Of course, the script was there and all that. Of course, it's based on the Milan guys. I always give them credit because of what they did. Bobby Plump will come up to me and say, Brad, thanks so much. I say, Bobby, thank you. All the reason you were here, got to do this is because of what you accomplished. And, just a good group of guys. A lot of those Milan guys are 88, 89 years of age.
They were a few years. I remember with Bobby. We went a independent team down in Denver. Played, and kind of a story about that too. We saw this great big tall guy, the hair from down to his shoulders. My head, that's the best. Look at his way of looking at the elevator. Look at that guy. Well, they played before we did and said, hey, he's pretty good. It was Bill Walt. 14 years old. He was kind of a hippie. He just had on jean shorts, and they saw him in the elevator.
That's my favorite player.
Yeah.
Bill Walton is a killer.
You had already told us first time I'd ever seen him.
Yeah, they thought, this kid. Yeah, I love that story.
Yeah, Walt would have. Yeah, but Bobby and I were rooming together, and somehow he signed his book and said, I want those pants back because somehow he got a pair of pants, got my suit pants. And they've had that running joke for him. We've had the running joke for years. Every time he sees them, he ain't those pants. Yes. I never could fight him again. I don't know what you did.
And he's a great guy. If you've never met Bobby, oh my gosh. And you think we talk a lot. You will
if you got a 2-hour session scheduled, you better count off Thor. He is a talker, but it's great.
Yeah.
He's just got great stories. That couldn't happen to a nicer group of guys than some other guys.
So my final question for you is, what's the legacy of the
Wow.
for you
Yeah.
and as a whole? What would you hope is the legacy? What is the legacy of it, and what's that?
That's a great question. I guess the first thing that comes to mind is that I think it'll always depict what small town Indiana community basketball was like during that time period. And I think it will always be set apart. It's certainly about basketball, but you see the ministers in the movie praying before the games. You see the barbershop scenes where they're in there talking about the game. You see the townies giving the coach a rough time. The church scene where they get ready to fire the coach.
Yeah.
I'm smiling as I tell this because that is Indiana.
Yeah.
That's what happens in the state. The good, the bad, the ugly.
Still have it started Indiana. My wife is from.
It still goes on. Bar-Reed, there you go. Vikings. The Vikings.
Yeah, and he hadn't changed that much.
Yeah, that's a good point. You can go to pockets in the state and kind of. I was just at the Whiteland won the section this year. They played in Washington. We made the trip down there because my kids grew up through Whiteland and they played Tyrannic Colors. And that gym, the Hatchet.
Yeah.
Ever been in there?
Oh, yeah.
I love that gym. That's where it's the house Zellers built.
We were there for one center girl.
Yeah, Trace got
Ben Davis.
They should have won that game. I'm still mad about that. And then I think Ben Davis got Ben Davis. Anyway, yeah, I mean I think that's the legacy it lives. That it is a true depiction of what life was like in small town and what basketball meant to the state, and all those things that come with it. Yeah, not just things on the court. Yeah. You know, the community getting together. In the uncut version, which I hope one day they come out, there's a big country scene where all the town was helping each other with the harvest. That didn't make it into the final print. That's really cool, man. But that's a microcosm of what it was like in Indiana. People helping each other, neighbors. My favorite single line in the whole movie, it truthfully has nothing to do with me. It's, to me, it encapsulates everything. It's when Coach Dale walks out for the first time. He gets ready to go out to coach his first game. Just as Ty pauses, he says, "Welcome to Indiana basketball." He opens that door. Think about that line.
Yeah.
And that covers it all.
I think that's chills.
I love that. Gives me chills as I tell.
Yeah.
Roger, you get the final question that I have.
Listen, see this pressure he's putting on me?
Yeah. It could be a two-parter if it needs.
Three-pointer at the buzzer, Roger.
Yeah, hey, last shot. I'm getting the last shot. So just rounding this all out. I'll just make a statement really quick. Knowing of the law is real one.
Yeah, delivering this community. Sam.
But
You don't look old enough.
I'm weathered.
He's aged well.
Yeah.
No, you look younger.
Yeah, dude, still weathered. But knowing about you guys for a long time, and I guess all the stories that you've told are experience, you know, and I think what's important to me is taking a father, good fan. But what is there for your journey that depicts on who you are as a father, as a man, as a husband, as a friend, and let's say it to you.
Well, it is. Well, I would just say that succinctly, I would say my priorities are my faith, my family, and then everything else that comes with it, the job, out of that. Yep. And I try to, I mess up every day, but I try to keep those priorities in order. And it just, you know, you can't make this up. My grandkids live next door to me. This will answer a question in a kind of a roundabout way. So about a year and a half ago, my daughter comes to me and says, we're thinking about moving. And so the neighbors, the for sale sign goes up next door, and my wife comes to me and says, "What'd you say? Why the neighbors moving?" And they wanted to move back to family. So part of this story is, so then Lisa looks at me and says, "You know, we should be proactive and at least let them know that house is available." We did, and they did. So Rob, I would tell you that my grandkids live next door. And so that I've had people in my church say, what a blessing that, you know, I grew up in a close family.
and everything sort of centers around faith and family. And as far as legacy, I just think Dad and I both look fortunate to be a part of this movie. In whatever success it's had, it's just a reflection on what it is like here in Indiana, growing up in Indiana. And that's heavy, but that's the way I feel. But that's life, man. It is. It's life. It's life.
That's pretty much what I would say. My family, my legacy, the movies let it. I've made a good mess. God, I don't think I've got too many years left, but I feel like I'm leaving some good stuff.
He may outlive me. He bikes and swims.
Well, I make
I'll be like you're 40, man.
well, gosh, I make myself do things, but truthfully, I don't feel like doing them. I have to make myself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
There's a great song. Let me tell you this, what Toby Keith, the late great Toby Keith, has a song that don't let the old man in. And sometimes you should listen to the lyrics. The older I get, the more I appreciate it. It's like don't let it take over. Stay young as long as you claim. And I see him being active, and it's a real lesson for me to continue doing something. And I'm telling you guys, since you guys are younger than this, stay active, do something. Because
I found one good thing about being, I think I already said this, just so you forget what you've already said for one thing, but about age is being able to keep your age in golf. You can't do that when you're 56. Yeah. Good player. But that's one of the things that you strive for. Is when you get my age, being able to do that.
it's a little thing.
It's the little things.
Little stuff. Yeah, the little things about it.
Yeah, that's right.
yeah, man.
Well, as I wrap this up, I kind of bring this up. We all know Gary Robinson. The Watts.
Oh, yeah, he was great.
And with this community. And he always had a line that there is more than Shadow Girl. But the reason we wanted to have you guys on is because I heard some of those incredible stories that make Centerborough such a special place. And I think the locals, I've always saying passively, the variety of different things that you have done that helps not just the Centerborough community, not just the Johnson County community, but the greater area with Jostens and different things he's done through Indiana basketball and for the UP Push. I just think tremendously represent some really odd things, and we bless your heart. Tremendously, you guys taking some time tonight and listen to the history games for it. We scheduled.
We'll catch you we're going to get you out before that.
Yeah. So,
well, Chris, that's very nice of you to say that. And let me thank you for doing this too. And how cool is this to get to do this out restaurant, your community? I mean, I just don't know that they do this everywhere. So this is one of those things I think that separates Center Grove, and Trojans.
well, I got to know. I got to a long time ago when I had Shelby class, like Donna and Marie, and then I want to put together the Wooden Sports and work at White London. Just looking for some ways to make that be possible and provide those opportunities. I just got to know, particularly Landry, how much of a class act the entire family.
Well, thank you. That's very nice of you to say that. We could go same way about you guys. Keep doing what you're doing here.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, right. The sentiment of this too is the one thing that we're doing is we get to talk to people, maybe that we cross paths and like we kind of connection. And,
It's just that we telling a story, and having somebody like that I was connected with.
you start building, that really to the community. Yeah, it's still connections, but and I'll just say, I'll say this, like, thank you. I mean, the lives of part of each other. Watching Scott,
I'm glad to hear
Scott, and then West Jim, and
I like the way I got to tell Scott that. It'll make him feel old. I got to make him feel old.
And then it's study and just being so and knowing that the same great there's good sample of it made on it, and I easy to paintings, and we're in that later.
I love that word connection. I think that's a key word. I think we are connected. And I will say this, the older I get, you've heard me say this, I think the older I get, I realize how mad I was there. What you mentioned there, the 6 degrees separation. I'll be somewhere in another state and something will happen. And this is one for you. I'll be having lunch somewhere. Somebody will sidle up, they'll tap me. They'll say, "Excuse me, sir, was your son and Hoosiers?"
Think what that does to your ego. I said, yeah, that was my boy. And it was my salad.
Fair. Gentlemen, thank you. Y'all did it. Thanks for making it possible.
Appreciate it.
Chris Wood, Rob Thompson, the honor of having you bring along Brad along with us tonight. And maybe we've got a chance to see him again down the road again. Until then, go Hoosiers a variety of ways. And Bill Patience.
You got it, bro. You got it, brother. Thanks, guys.
That was fun. That was fun.